Welcome to College Compass by experts at scholarship.org. For the past 43 years, the staff at the George Snow Scholarship Fund and scholarship.org have dedicated themselves to empowering young people and ensuring that they have access to the resources they need to succeed in their educational journeys. In each episode, we're going to sit down with experts to provide practical advice that will help students overcome challenges, thrive, and maximize their college experience. My name is Tim Snow. I'm president of the George Snow Scholarship Fund and scholarship.org.
And my name is Shannon Elwood. I am the Director of Communications for the George Snow Scholarship Fund. But in addition to that, I bring years of experience working closely with our Snow Scholars on their educational journey.
In today's episode, we're diving into college prep for rising seniors with expert advice straight from the co-author of All the Wisdom and None of the Junk, Katie Kramer. Katie is the president and CEO of the Boettcher Foundation, a nonprofit organization based in Denver, Colorado, who believes in the promise and potential of the people of Colorado. The Boettcher Foundation invests in people, programs, and organizations across the state to provide a foundation for transformational impact. As president and CEO, Katie has come full circle with the Boettcher Foundation. She is selected as a Boettcher Scholar back in 1993 and has been with the foundation in various roles since 1997. Katie and her colleague, Katie Craig, originally wrote and published All the Wisdom and None of the Junk, Secrets of Applying for College Admission and Scholarships in 2017 to demystify the selection process and help the next generation apply for college and scholarships. The second edition of the book will be released later this year, but Katie joins us to share must-know tips from her book. Katie, welcome to our podcast. We really appreciate you taking the time to do this. We've enjoyed your book since its publication in 2017. I think one year we actually bought a copy for every high school guidance counselor in Palm Beach County, which is the county that we serve. But we appreciate you taking the time and just kind of going through the book. I know we touched on a little bit that you've got a revision coming out, so we want to touch on that. But we've got a lot of questions for you. And I guess the first one that I'll ask is, what inspired you and Katie to write the book?
Well, first of all, thanks for having me today. It's great to see you, my friend. I know we've been in each other's worlds for a number of years, and so fun to have this conversation with you today. So thank you.
Of course.
So what led us to write this book? Well, even though you know that we do college scholarships here at the Boettcher Foundation, and even though we provide millions of dollars in college scholarships for high school students every year, we have a pretty small staff. And years ago, when I was the director of the scholarship program, and there was just one other staff member, there was just two of us that would travel around the state to visit individual high schools and attend college fairs to share information about what makes a competitive and compelling scholarship. And of course, no surprise, we would notice when the applications came in that the places that we had a chance to visit had applications that were stronger. And so it was just, we wanted to make sure the information could get out more broadly to reach more students. And so this was one idea and opportunity. We wanted to put all the ideas that we were sharing down into a book that could be then distributed across the state. We bought them for all the high schools in the state of Colorado and sent one to every library as well, just to make sure we could get the information out there. And so that was originally, we just wanted to make sure that the students had that important information, because you think about it, when you apply for college and scholarships, by default, you've never done it before. So all of a sudden you're expected to be an expert and know what to do. And you're coming in as, you're 17 years old or whatever, and this is a big decision. And so we just wanted to demystify all things around college applications and scholarship processes and really help students to present themselves on paper or online now, right?
Yeah, exactly. Well, interesting. And I probably should have asked you this question to lead off the podcast, but give us some of your history. I think it's very interesting to me that you were a Boettcher Foundation scholar, and now you're literally heading up the organization. I mean, that's a beautiful story, and maybe you can shed a little bit of light on that for our listeners.
Well, sure. You alluded to some of this at the beginning, but this is it's a full circle moment for me. I'm a Colorado kid, and my story is that I was like 14 years old, and Mrs. Bornhauser, who was the college admissions person at my high school, called me into her office and said, "Kate, I think you're Boettcher material." And I don't know that I knew exactly what that meant at that time, but she knew how about this wonderful scholarship that the Boettcher Foundation provided. And also she had a sense of who might be competitive for it. And that just meant that I did decent in middle school, good grades. I was really active in my school and community. So she saw something in me. And then she helped sort of guide me to put myself in a situation to apply for it when I was a senior. And that goes back to the whole story about the necessity of the book is wanting, not everybody's going to have a Mrs. Bornhauser that's saying, right, do this, this, and this, and support you along the way. So we wanted to make sure we had that. But it is true relative to the full circleness, I'm sure that's a word, of this experience. So I came here after I graduated from college with my Boettcher scholarship, because I did end up winning one. And I've done all these different jobs here over the years. And ironically, today is my 27th work anniversary. Today.
Congratulations.
That's awesome.
I've been the CEO for about 8.5 years. And wow. I've done all the jobs here. And it's really special to be a recipient, knowing the life-changing investment in me as a 17-year-old. And now having a chance to work at the organization to help other students in that same situation, and then all the work we do throughout Colorado, it's a total blessing and really a pay it forward moment for me too. So,
yeah, that's such a great story. I mean, who doesn't want to be able to tell that story for their organization to show the impact that, and really how that scholarship changed your life, so many years ago,
and my family.
Yeah, your family as well, and your children.
Right.
Multi-generational. Exactly. And we get to see that impact as well down here. But it's especially cool when you can come back and lead the organization, because you know what it's like as a scholar as well. I think that greatly enhances what you guys are doing at Boettcher. And you're just for our listeners, they are one of the most highly respected scholarship providers in the country. As Katie had mentioned earlier, she and I have known each other for many years because of our involvement in the National Scholarship Providers Association. I think we're both past chairs of that association, which is really a great resource for all scholarship providers around the country. But Shannon, why don't you go ahead and kick off with one of your questions?
Yeah, so I noticed at the beginning of the book, you have an outline that shows what high school students should be doing throughout each year of their time in high school to prepare for college or their applications. And so I wanted to ask, what would you say to people who are rising seniors right now? What is their list of to-dos that they need to make sure they are working on as a rising senior?
Great question. And I think that that's one of the fun things in the book is there's just guidance about what you should do and when. And so I think for seniors, I would say, we're recording this in the summer. So the most important thing to do if you're going to start your senior year is start with any application essays. If you have had a chance to peruse a few college applications or the Common App, which is used by more than 1,100 colleges, you have some idea about essay prompts. So sometimes doing the essay, just starting the essay is one of the most intimidating parts for students. Yeah. So I would say just get in there and at least get a draft done over the summer. So you're not having that pressure on top of your workload for your senior year. And you want to start thinking about the people in your life who you know well and could potentially write a solid letter of recommendation for you. You also want to maybe start finalizing your list of colleges and scholarships where you want to apply. And those applications start opening in August. So before senior year has even technically started for most people. So just even starting a draft list where you might want to apply and what applications you want to start thinking about. And, getting some of those deadlines listed out just so you know how you're going to flow those with the regular things you need to do as a senior. And then maybe if you have the opportunity to visit some colleges, if possible, this summer, if you're out and about with family and visiting maybe, because it's just really important to get on campus. Campuses just to see how it feels, in addition to lots of them offer some of the same types of programs, but a lot of picking a college is fit. So having a chance to get on campus is a great thing to do. And you could start that this summer.
Absolutely. And what would you say to students who feel like maybe some of these steps in the outline, they're starting behind schedule?
Well, I would say, first of all, it is a process, and I would not want someone to look at the list and be like, oh my goodness, I'm behind. I don't think that that's true. I think that if you're thinking ahead, you can kind of look and see to make sure you're on track. But I would just say for seniors right now, the time is now. So you just jump in there right where you are. No pressure, no stress. Don't panic. But you do need to establish a plan. You need to be focusing on what the deadlines are, what you want to apply, give yourself a timeline. It would be really helpful. And I think that will help people, if they feel like they're behind, feel not panicked, because they're perfectly timed to start right now if that's when they're starting.
That's the best time to get started.
Yep.
Yeah. Katie, your book is really, it addresses, I think, two things. Really, it's about applying to college, but it's also about applying for scholarships.
Right.
So what are kind of the differences between those two processes, or maybe some similarities as well? And they're obviously different applications, right? But tell us about if you see any differences or similarities there.
Sure. So as you know, they're not exactly the same thing. They're related, but not exactly the same. So I think the way to think about it is college applications are for admissions or acceptance to attend a specific institution. The scholarship applications are for funding to help pay for the college. So key differences between the two: purpose for college apps get you into school, scholarships help you pay for it, right? The audiences are a little different too. Colleges assess academic fit and potential. Scholarships often focus more on impact, like leadership, service, or financial need. Criteria, I would say, again, there's some similarities there, but scholarships tend to have a more detailed and specific requirements. Maybe they require extra essays or recommendations or interviews focused on specific things that are part of whatever that scholarship selection criteria is looking at. I would say one thing that you can use for both are like your resume and activity list. Maybe personal statement or parts of essays. You can recycle some of those based upon what the questions are. Letters of recommendation, sometimes you can use those for both. And then just basic information that are asked for on both things. That could be like test scores or GPA or, classes, those types of things, class schedule.
And I will say on that, we, in our scholarship applications, sometimes we get college-focused recommendation letters attached to the student's application. And at least for our purposes, we tell the students that's totally okay to reuse that recommendation letter. But I guess, of course, you would want to double check with the scholarship you're applying to make sure that they also are okay with that, right?
Completely agree. Yes.
Yeah.
So it sounds almost like if you're doing this, you're going into the process of both applying for college and applying for scholarships, that you maybe start a document, a Word doc or whatever, that just has, it has your personal information in it, your GPAs, your test scores, all those kind of things, where you can kind of maybe even cut and paste a lot of this information into both the college application and the scholarship applications. And I don't think you want to go, well, there's certainly a lot of information, all your personal information, your contact information, your GPAs, test scores, and those kind of things. I'm not sure you would want to do that with essays, but I don't know. Do you have any thoughts on that, Katie?
Yeah, sure. I do. So first of all, love that idea of having a Word doc or a Google doc would work really well. Yeah. That you can just have, it's sort of just the holding place for all of those things. Because I do think some of it can be recycled. I really do. But the critical key is you must read the directions. Probably of course you read the directions, but people don't, right? I don't know how many applications we get for, I'm so excited to be applying for the Daniels Fund Scholarship, which is another wonderful scholarship organization here in Colorado. But it's, just be thoughtful about that, right? And I'm sure they get Boettcher people saying, I'm excited to apply for the Boettcher Scholarship as well. So you can recycle things. And the other thing I would say too is, sometimes if you're typing things in and then you hit submit, you may not be able to grab that section again. So I would always have a copy that into that master Google Doc or Word doc and what you used it for. And then maybe you can continue to iterate on, this short answer might work for this short answer on another application. So keep copies of everything. That's another big piece of advice.
So yeah, Katie, we get the same thing that you just described, where their essays are including other organizations or other people that don't relate to our application. And so my advice is, while sort of what we're talking about, the advice is helping you speed up the process and cut and paste. You really do need to be intentional about, when it comes to especially essays, when you're reusing them, you really got to take the time to read them, check them, and I would say that goes to every aspect of it, right? You want to be using the proper grammar. You want to capitalize where capitalization is called for. All those things go into when the reviewers are reading these applications. It does affect them when they see these kind of mistakes. And so I would say, particularly as it relates, to the whole application really, but do take the time. It's time well spent to review them, make sure that there's no grammatical errors or punctuation errors. And then also that if you need to change names and organization names, to make sure you do that.
I think that's right. And I would just build on one other thing that we tell students is, don't forget, we talked about the importance of reading directions, but when you should read the selection criteria very closely for each application, because you can think of it this way. It's like glasses that they're putting on when they read your application. They're looking through that filter to see if the student fits that criteria. And so you want to make sure you're looking at that on the application, because maybe they're prioritizing service to school and community. Maybe it's more leadership based. And the reality is you can frame some of your activities in different ways. So you want to make sure that you reframe some of that type of thing based upon the lenses that they're looking for when they're reviewing applications. So that's really important as well.
Yeah, that's great advice. And that really kind of leads me to my next question is, what are selection committees looking for? When it comes to extracurricular activities, short answer essay responses, and their essays.
Well, I'm going to do kind of a rapid fire here on some tips and tricks that we talk about in the book. But great. I would say, in my experience, that general strategies are depth over breadth. Colleges would rather see you go deep in a few activities than spread thin across so many. That commitment and growth over time matter more than just you're a joiner, right? I did one meeting here, one meeting here. We want to see some impact through that involvement. I would say showing initiative is another one that I would say is compelling to selection committees, meaning that you've maybe started something, or you saw a need and responded, or you've led a project, or you've created some impact in the involvement versus just you showed up at the club meeting. Be genuine. I would say choose things that actually appeal to you. Don't do it because your mom thinks it's a good idea, or an older sibling or a friend said you should do XYZ. Do it because you like it. So if you want to do Dungeons and Dragons Club, do it and then do it a lot. Or, it's not just because you should join the Spanish National Honor Society that you should do it. If you really like Spanish, then do it. So be genuine and authentic in what you're choosing to spend your time with. I would also say impact over prestige. So I would choose things where you feel like there's a meaningful impact to be had, not just you're on a trophy hunt to see what you can get. So it really matters to us the difference that you've made in your school or community. Even if it's a small circle, much rather see that than some big award that doesn't, that's great, you got it, and shows some competitiveness relative to other things, but it maybe doesn't demonstrate your impact in the same way as if you really started whatever it was in your community. And then I think it's always good to tell a story. Remember that selection committees see tons of applications every year, hundreds of them. So your ability to talk about your story and the impact you were making versus just listing things that they see over and over and over. Do you know how many students are in National Honor Society? Everybody is. Not that I don't love National Honor Society, but it's just, what did you do in that? What impact was that making at your specific school? We need to understand that because everybody has good grades and is a National Honor Society. So it's more about impact, right, than just listing what the activities are.
Yeah. And, talking about this reminded me, something that is big at our organization is we see students who, because of personal family circumstances at home, they may not be able to spend as much time as they would like in extracurriculars because maybe they're a caregiver. That's a large one for us, that they have to go home and take. Yeah, or working, that they have to provide for their family in a variety of ways, caring for someone who's ill or elderly or disabled, or working to provide financial, to help their family financially. And so that could be, for those students who may be listening to this and thinking, well, I don't have a lot of extracurriculars, those are other points to touch on and to expand on in your essay and to tell that story, right? Because that's going to stick out to the selection committees.
100% agree.
Mm-hmm.
And we look at work experience as an extracurricular activity because, so many times students need to do that to help their families and themselves. But you can also, I don't want to say spin it, but you can apply the same, ideas showing how you took a leadership role in where you work. Or maybe you got promoted or whatever it is, but highlight those things. We look at leadership a lot. So like you say, Katie, I mean, if you're going to be in a club, have you taken some kind of a leadership role? And what we love seeing is when they start off maybe as, the secretary or the note taker or what have you, and kind of work their way up through the ranks. We place a lot of value on seeing those kind of activities with our kids.
Yes.
Katie, we were talking about essays. Obviously, many times a big part of these applications, and AI, is definitely something that is an interesting topic. And I wanted to kind of talk to you about that. We talked about your new new book coming out, which I think you actually had mentioned to me that you're going to be addressing this in the book. But what advice would you give students related to AI and completing the applications?
You bet. Yes, that's a new section we had to add, right? Because that did not exist the first time around. So I think what we would say is utilize AI with caution, but also for what it's good at. As far as, generative AI can help you brainstorm ideas. It could help you organize application materials. We were going back to what we were talking about making a timeline or something. You could type all the things in there and have it make you like a list to help you get organized about those types of things. Specific things relative to essays, though, is just be cautious about over-reliance on it. You need to do your own writing. But ways it could help is back to just checking your grammar, or your, spelling. It can help you, like I said, brainstorm on topics, but you need to feed it things so it's authentic to you, right? So I would say that you would help it build an essay outline once you've brainstormed your topic, but you want to make sure that you do the writing. And it's funny because you can, teach it or have it say, make this sound funny or whatever. But remember, it will make those same recommendations to others. So we can actually tell when a lot of things are AI written. So don't think that you're being, tricky with that, because we can sense it, we can see it, because there's patterns that are telltale that when you read the types of applications that we do in the volume, we see that. So have it help proof, have it help brainstorm, but do your own work. I would say that one of the other good things that could be used for is interview prep. Like if you're going to be interviewing for a scholarship application, you could put, this is the selection criteria. Here's my application essay. And it may help you prepare, could give you some sample prompts that you could respond to. We've seen some students use it that way too. And so, even when you're doing your discernment about, should I choose this college or this college, have it do a pro and con for you, based upon what your interests are. So use it for those types of things, which it's good at, but I just want to make sure that I impress upon the message of do your own writing. We are people on the other end of the selection process, and people select people. And so your ability in your essays to come from an authentic place, tell your story, I promise that will come out of the paper, out of the application, out of the screen when the selection criteria are reading your materials.
Well, you bring up a lot. I mean, like you say, it's a great tool, right? I mean, you can use it for so many things other than writing your essay, and you don't want to use it to write your essay, except for maybe, like you say, to check your grammar, check your pronunciation, or not pronunciation, punctuation. But yeah, in our reviewers, like you say, you can really tell when somebody has just relied on AI to generate something for them, to fill in, those 400 words or whatever it is. It really needs to be your story. And people can tell, they really can. So don't sell yourself short. Write your own stuff. I think all of that is really good advice. I didn't really think about all the things that you listed that they can use them for, getting yourself organized, brainstorming, all really, really great advice, Katie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And, my next question was going to be about common mistakes that students can make on applications. I feel like we have gotten to a lot of those mistakes, attention to detail, punctuation, AI usage in essays. Are there any other mistakes?
I'd
you would say?
mention just two that I think are really important.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of essay prompts that are like something like, tell me an issue that is really important to you,
Mm-hmm.
or tell me about someone who's had inspired or has an impact on you. One of the things the students need to remember that we are trying to get insight into them. So if they write more about the issue, or if they might write more about that person than they write about themselves, that doesn't help them, I would say, right? So they may be passionate about electric cars or wearing seatbelts, or choose the topic. But they need to say why, right? Or even if the person they admire Abraham Lincoln or whoever, if it's a historical essay about that historical person, that doesn't help us understand anything about the student. So just making sure that they are coming through, and that this has to be about the significance to them versus the issue or the person. I think that that's one of the things that we see, that it's just we just don't get anything extra, from those. We understand you care about it, but we don't understand why or any insight into you as a human. So
Yeah. And I think in the essays where it is more personalized, where the selection committee feels like they can get to know the student a little bit better, those students stand out. And I know we've mentioned that before, but it really helps getting to know you and wanting, and it tugs at those heartstrings, right? Because now we want to help you, or we want to meet you.
Exactly. And I think another thing, you've probably seen this too, students sometimes talk about adversity in their lives. And that's that helps us to see character, but we also want to see beyond just that challenging event in their lives. What impact did that have on them? How have they grown from it versus just talking about the event? That's another example. And I'm sure you can think of examples too, where students have had these wonderful stories of resiliency or growth as a result of something that may have been really hard for them.
That's really good advice. And we see so many times that, and I don't know why this necessarily, well, I kind of have a theory on why it is, but a lot of our scholars who have gone through this adversity, this is just normal to them, right? This is like a normal part of their lives. They sometimes don't even see it as adversity. And so I would just encourage young people who have experienced challenges in their lives to be open about that. These applications are all confidential. And we really, we have a limited amount of space on the application, and we want to get to know you. And so we need you. If you don't tell us about it, we're not going to know about it. And so just, be an open book for us. The application really is designed so that we can get a picture of you. And again, it's a limited photograph, so make that photograph as vivid as you can make it. Very much encourage young people to open up.
Absolutely.
So, Katie, I've mentioned a couple times. I'm actually excited about getting your updated updated version of the book. Are there other topics that you're going to be updating, specifically things that have changed since you guys first wrote it in 2017?
Well, I think we certainly AI is one of the newer sections. And the other piece is just, it's almost 10 years old. So just refreshing of some of the more current activities and better examples. And we've given a lot more diverse examples too, that match what students are experiencing now. And so it was just a big old refresh. We've also organized it, I think, in a little bit different way. So this is not meant to be read sort of a cover to cover, and it's kind of like a workbook. So it's pretty quick read, but it's kind of a resource manual is kind of how you think about it. So if you're working on a section, you can just read those couple of pages. Or if you want to look at the timeline, you just read that section. Or now I'm going to work on the activity section, so I just read this. So students do not have time to read another thing. They're going to be doing whatever they're reading for English or whatever. And so it's designed for quick hits, just the information you need at the right time, that type of thing. So part of it too is a bit of a reorganization to continue to make it as user-friendly and helpful just in time for what students and families need. So that's another piece that we're excited about with this edition.
When do you think it'll hit the market?
Yeah, so it's available either on our website or on Amazon, so pretty easy. The current version will be available into August, and the new version will be added in September. And then the other thing is, like this, we have a podcast. We have our own podcast at the Boettcher Foundation called Colorado Leadership Stories. So we'll have some episodes on there. And then we're going to do some things that are like some YouTubes and some other resource material. So even though we're launching the second edition in September, we're going to continue to be adding content that's free and available for students. Because again, going back to where I started, it's all about just getting the information out there. This is not like a money-making activity. We'll be happy to cover our costs, but this is a service. We just want to make sure people have access to the information.
Well, it's all wonderful information. We've all read the book. We're excited for the new edition to come out. We'll be purchasing a bunch of those, getting them out into our guidance counselors' hands so that they can continue to use it as a resource. But Katie, we probably should do about 5 or 6 episodes with you, just because there's so much information that you have personally that's in your book. But we really appreciate you taking the time to sit down with us today to allow our listeners to get some of these tips that you have in your book. And like the book says, all the wisdom and none of the junk. I love the title. And again, we're grateful to you very much, Katie, for being with us. So in closing, I want to thank our listeners for tuning into College Compass by experts at scholarship.org. In our next episode, we're going to be diving into the basics of budgeting for college students. So please stay tuned.
And in the meantime, you can learn more about us by visiting scholarship.org. For more tips and updates, don't forget to follow us on social media. You can find us on Instagram and LinkedIn at George Snow Scholarship Fund, and Facebook, TikTok, and X at Snow Scholarship. And as always, we look forward to guiding you through your educational journey. Thank you.